Imagine this. It's 1993. The Super Bowl is the biggest sporting event in America, but there's one problem. No one cares about the halftime show.
First Super Bowl halftime show you directed
was Michael Jackson in 1993. That happened because in 1992, the halftime shows were not much at Super Bowls.
People use it as a bathroom break or a snack run. Then he shows up, Michael Jackson, and in just 12 minutes, he doesn't just perform. He changes the game forever. This is the story of how the King of Pop saved the Super Bowl halftime show and turned it into the most watched musical event on the planet. Before Michael Jackson, the Super Bowl halftime show was, well, let's just say it wasn't exactly must-see TV. We're talking marching bands, drill teams, and maybe a figure skater or two. It was fun, but it wasn't iconic. Then, in 1992, something happened that shook the NFL to its core. Fox, a rival network, aired a live comedy special during halftime called In Living Color. Millions of viewers switched channels, and the NFL realized they had a problem. If they didn't step up their halftime game, they'd lose their audience forever. They knew they had to make a change. They needed someone big, someone so electrifying that no one would dare look away. So they called the biggest superstar in the world, Michael Jackson. What happened next? A halftime show that shattered records, saved the NFL from embarrassment, and redefined entertainment forever. This is the story of how Michael Jackson saved the Super Bowl. State of Super Bowl halftime shows before MJ. The Super Bowl is the biggest sporting event in America, but before 1993, its halftime show was anything but spectacular. The early years featured marching bands, drill teams, and classical musicians, far from the high-energy performances we see today. In some years, audiences tuned out completely, using the break to grab food, stretch, or even switch channels.
The 1992 Super Bowl 26 Halftime Spectacular. Winter Magic.
The 1992 halftime show was a major failure. It featured a winter magic theme, with a tribute to the Winter Olympics starring Gloria Estefan and figure skaters. While Estefan was a talented performer, the show lacked excitement. Worse, Fox counter-programmed it with In Living Color, a sketch comedy special that included a live countdown clock telling viewers when to switch back. The result? Viewership for the second half of the Super Bowl dropped by 10%. That was unheard of. The NFL was humiliated. They knew they needed to make halftime the event of the night. How the NFL convinced Michael Jackson. The NFL's first few attempts to sign Michael Jackson failed. He wasn't interested. He didn't need the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl needed him. He was at the height of his career, selling out stadiums worldwide. Asking him to perform for free? That was a tough sell. At first, Jackson asked for a $1 million fee. The NFL had never paid performers, so they refused. Negotiations stalled, but the NFL was desperate. Finally, they struck a deal. They wouldn't pay Michael, but they would donate $100,000 to his Heal the World Foundation and give him commercial time during the game to promote his Heal LA campaign. Michael agreed, but he didn't just want to perform, he wanted to make history. Building up the moment. On January 31st, 1993, in Pasadena, California, Super Bowl 27 kicked off, but everyone was waiting for halftime. Then, the moment arrived. The stadium darkened. A deep, commanding voice filled the air. James Earl Jones announcing an unprecedented Super Bowl spectacular starring Michael Jackson.
Ladies and gentlemen, Radio City Music Hall Productions and the National Football League proudly present an unprecedented Super Bowl spectacular starring Michael Jackson.
The crowd roared. But where was Michael? Suddenly, he appeared on the jumbotrons at opposite ends of the stadium. Or so it seemed. He stood still, staring into the camera before vanishing in an explosion of light. Then another Michael Jackson appeared on the other screen. Again, a burst of smoke. And then, boom! The real Michael was catapulted onto center stage. He stood there, frozen. Not a single move, not a word. For nearly 2 minutes. The crowd was going insane. The suspense was unbearable. But Michael knew exactly what he was doing. He owned the moment. Finally, he raised his hands, removed his sunglasses, and the music kicked in. The performance. Michael opened with Jam, his energy electrifying the stadium. He slid effortlessly into Billie Jean, mesmerizing everyone with his iconic moonwalk. Then came Black or White, where his dancers moved in perfect synchronization, making the crowd erupt with excitement. And just when you thought it couldn't get any bigger, the entire audience in the stadium held up cards, forming an image of children from around the world holding hands. A choir of 3,000 kids flooded the field. "We Are the World" rang through the air, and then came "Heal the World," as an enormous inflatable globe emerged at the center of the field. This was more than a performance. This was a message, a call for unity, love, and healing. And the world was watching. Fans were blown away. Many called it the greatest performance they had ever seen. Media outlets raved. The New York Times called it a masterclass in showmanship. The NFL learned a valuable lesson: never settle for anything less than extraordinary. Michael Jackson's Super Bowl halftime show changed everything. Before this, halftime shows were filler. Now, they were must-see TV. The numbers say it all. His performance was watched by 133.4 million people in the US, the highest-rated Super Bowl halftime show at the time. Globally, the viewership hit 1.3 billion, an insane number for any event, let alone a halftime show. And for the first time ever, Super Bowl ratings increased between halves. People stayed for the show and kept watching. Michael's impact went beyond the Super Bowl. His album Dangerous jumped from number 18 to number 3 on the Billboard 200, selling 35 million copies worldwide. The NFL had learned its lesson. Never again would they treat halftime like an afterthought. From that moment on, they only booked the biggest stars: Diana Ross, U2, the Rolling Stones, Prince, Madonna, Beyoncé, Rihanna. But none of them would have had the chance if Michael Jackson hadn't changed the game in 1993. Lasting impact. His halftime show wasn't just about entertainment, it was about inspiration. It was about using the biggest stage in the world to bring people together, to remind us that music, love, and unity can break through any barrier. His influence still dominates today. Every halftime performer, whether it's Beyoncé, Lady Gaga, or The Weeknd, owes something to Michael. His performance set the standard for all future shows. Even today, no Super Bowl halftime show has matched the sheer global impact of Michael Jackson's 1993 performance. Michael Jackson didn't just perform at the Super Bowl, he saved it. Before him, halftime shows were forgettable. He turned them into events. He made sure nobody left their seats. And over 30 years later, no halftime show has ever matched the sheer impact of his performance. His Super Bowl show wasn't just about entertainment. It was about inspiration, about using the biggest stage in the world to bring people together, to remind us that music, love, and unity can break through any barrier. That's why to this day, Michael Jackson's 1993 halftime show isn't just one of the greatest, it's the greatest. Michael Jackson revolutionized entertainment and set a new standard for Super Bowl halftime shows. If you're a true MJ fan, hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more incredible stories about the King of Pop.